Hi there, Ken.
Hi, Jordan. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Okay. Hey, do you expect a lot of people today, or?
I don't know. I've definitely publicized it. This is the very first Hangout on air I've done, so we'll see how it goes.
Well, it's interesting because I know that some of our departments were looking at some kind of like web conferencing where you could see everybody's faces but still share your desktop or a presentation. So I'm looking at Google Plus, to see if that's a kind of a platform we can use.
Mhm.
And it's so easy to use. That's the thing.
Yeah, it's really exciting.
Oh, cool.
So I'm just gonna wait a few more minutes for
Okay.
people. Hi, Stan.
Hey, Jordan.
How's it going?
All right, and yourself?
Pretty good. Just still waiting another couple of minutes or so for any other people to join.
I'm surprised there aren't more here.
Yeah, I mean, the tricky thing with the way Hangouts are right now is that they're not as tightly integrated with Calendar or a way for you to, I think, go to one place, back when the start of the Hangout is. Kind of like with WebEx, you can have a set day and time and you just go to that one link. I think this is a little different, so we'll probably get, people coming on and on as we continue. So, but the nice thing about this is that it's all being recorded, so.
That's great.
And I'm going to continue to do more of these, so. Yeah. Hi, everyone. So we're going to get started in just a couple more minutes. We're waiting for people to continue joining the Hangout, so just stay tuned. Hopefully you all see my screen right now after you've gone Google.
Hey, Jordan, it's Brian. I just popped, yeah, I see you typing in the chat. Yeah, I see that that feature's not available, but that's part of what makes it disconcerting is it's hard to know how many people are participating. So I originally clicked on the on-air portion, and then you guys started, being disappointed at how many participants there were. There may be a lot more people participating. We just don't know.
Yeah, that's definitely a good feature request there. I mean, we do know that the limit for in the multi-user video conference, it is 10, and then after that, whoever else is live streaming in, then that's who is streaming in. So I'll definitely take a note of that and pass that on as feedback to the Hangouts on Air team.
Yeah, even if they could participate in the chat, I think that'd be a fantastic feature.
Yeah. I would imagine they probably already heard that feature request, though, before. So I'm sure it's on their radar. All right, well, I'm just going to go ahead and get started, and if other people join in our direct Hangout, then they do. And to those of you who are watching on live stream, My name is Jordan Pedraza, and I am the Community Manager for Google Apps for Education for Higher Ed. So I work with colleges and universities currently using Google Apps for Education to make the most out of the platform and our products, and continue to just hear feedback and tips and tricks and best practices throughout the community. So from students, from teachers, faculty, staff, and different stakeholders out there. So I wanted to host my first Hangout on Air, very first one I'm doing, just to talk a lot more about after you've gone Google. And some of the folks here in our direct Hangout, are already from Google Apps institutions, and they're familiar with a lot of this. But I still wanted to introduce myself to the community and just kind of give a nice overview of some things to expect and some things to know after you've deployed Google Apps for Education. So in the bottom right-hand corner, actually you should see my presentation right now, hopefully, after you've gone to Google. So there's two ways to kind of engage with me publicly as a community manager. I'm on Twitter. My handle is Jordan Pedraza, my full name. And then also my Google Plus profile, which is the way you'll connect with me on future Hangouts. So I have a short link to that as well. So let me continue on with the presentation. So for our agenda, I'm going to cover basically 4 things today. So Google Apps support, probably the number one, asked about, talked about feature and system we have after you deploy Google Apps. So I'll cover how do you get in touch with support, what kind of channels do we have for you to get in touch with us, if you have any technical issues, if you need us to troubleshoot something for you, or just general questions. Next, I'll cover feature requests and suggestions, and we actually kind of talked about that here today with Google+, but I'll talk also about how feature suggestions relate to Google Apps for Education more generally. Then I'll move on to general account management, so some resources we have that will help you, stay up to date with any new releases and new products, how to keep track of current events and future events, and just other resources and generally what's available in the community. And then finally, I'll pause for Q&A. I'll have Q&A after each of those sections as well, but I'll have a bulk of time dedicated to Q&A at the end. So I do ask just for some housekeeping items. This is my first Hangout on Air. So if you get cut out, just join again. As long as I'm broadcasting this, you should be able to just go to my profile and join in again. If you're still not able to see my presentation or connect in the Hangout, that's okay. We are recording this. I'll post it on YouTube and on Google+, and I'm going to have many more of these in the future. A lot of us at Google have these, so this is definitely not the only opportunity to engage with us. And then finally, I do ask that you do mute yourself if you are in the Hangout while I am presenting, but when we pause for Q&A, please unmute and definitely ask any questions. So with that, I'll continue. And then also, if you have just general feedback on this Hangout too, feel free to add it in the group chat or at the end when we have Q&A too. So first, let me talk about Google Apps support. So generally, what should you expect once you've gone Google, once you've registered your domain, provisioned your accounts, and everyone's up and running with Google Apps? So there are 4 major support channels that we have with Google Apps. And I do want to note that this is not just relevant to Google Apps for Education. That is the intended audience for this Hangout, but these are the same channels for all of our Google Apps customers, whether it's for business, for government, for nonprofits. So the 2 probably most frequent ways you'll engage with support are via phone or our support portal web email form. So with phone support, we have a 24/7 phone support service available. So this is available in a few of those languages there listed, such as English, French, Japanese, Spanish, Italian. So you can call us anytime, and we'll be happy to help you out. Generally, we recommend phone support is the fastest way to get a hold of us. We'll pick up the phone and be able to help you out, especially for system-critical things. So, if no one's receiving email or, there's some kind of major service disruption, we definitely want to know about this, so give us a call. You can also contact us online. So we have a support portal. If you're an administrator, just go into your control panel, click on the support tab, and then we'll guide you through the steps to contact us. So we'll ask you to categorize the issue. Is it affecting Gmail versus Docs? What kind of issue is it? What kind of information do we need from you? And that's also available in the languages listed, such as English, French, Japanese, etc. So those are probably the two primary ways that you'll be engaging with support. There are two other channels that I do want to call to your attention. We have a great dedicated admin help center. This is the third bucket, where it's a great resource just for everyday kind of questions and just the nitty-gritty details of setting up your domain and what kind of services are available and what resources are at your disposal. So, and I'll include links to all of these sources in the next slide. But just to talk about the Admin Help Center, it's a very robust repository of many articles we have on a lot of different topics. Everything from, what's included in Google Apps for Education. How do I turn on a service? How do I turn it off? How do I create a sub-organizational unit? How do I create multi-domains? All of those questions are addressed in this Admin Help Center. And it's available to anyone. So actually, in contrast to the phone support and the web form, the first two buckets on the slide, the last two, the Admin Help Center and the support forms, those are open to anyone. So obviously, your more technically engaged users might want to look at those resources, but if you have a larger IT help desk or staff or administration, anyone is welcome to look up, frequently asked questions or any resources on those bottom two buckets there. So I did want to point that out. The last thing I wanted to call to your attention was our administrator discussion group and API support. So as you know with Google Apps, it's not just providing Gmail and Calendar products, but we also have a lot of APIs. DocSlist API, provisioning API, audit API, so we have a lot of discussion groups and support forums to also help you make the most of those tools. You can discuss, with other Google Apps admins on how they're using APIs. You can also contact our API support team, so you can get assistance from us. And then also there's lots of power users and top contributors on there who can also kind of consult your usage of these tools. So those are just 4 main support channels that we have. So here are some important links that you might want to bookmark or just take a note of. So that Google Apps Admin Help Center, that's at google.com/support/A. And also if you just do a Google search for any of these terms, you should find them. So Google Apps Admin Help Center, Google Apps, any of those terms, that should pull up that resource. Same with Google Apps APIs. So if you just go to code.google.com, that will give you all of our APIs that we have, both for Google Apps, for education, or for business, or in the consumer space. And then if you want to access our support forms, you just add another /Google Apps. So code.google.com/Google Apps. That's where all of our API and admin forms are. And then, of course, the status dashboard. So if you're managing Google Apps, you want to make sure that you know that our services are up and running, that there's no disruptions, and just stay up to date with that. So we have a really nice dashboard at google.com/app-status. So that will show you, which services are up and running, if there's any disruptions, any things to note. And I'll show you a screenshot of that next. And then finally, just an easy reminder, if you want to contact support, the quickest way is to go into your control panel if you're a domain administrator, click on the support tab, and then you'll see a list of options for how to get in touch with us. So you'll see our phone number, you'll see your support pin, you'll see the web form I was talking about, so that's all in your control panel in the support tab. And just to show you a little bit more about our app status dashboard. So this is the source of truth. If you want to know if Google Mail is down, if Google Drawings is down, if the APIs are down or up, or whatever the case may be, we list each status day by day, whether there's no issues, green light, orange, service disruption, or red or pink, service outage. We do, uphold our SLAs pretty well. I believe in 2010 we had a 99.984% SLA, and I think we're still waiting in for the numbers on 2011. But generally, we do everything we can to keep our services up and running. But if there is any disruption or incident, we'll definitely update it on here. You can actually subscribe to an RSS feed. So if you don't want to go to this separate site at google.com/app-status, you can just get email RSS feeds in your inbox instead. And then if there are any incident reports, we always report them back on here. So if you ever want to see kind of a post-mortem on any kind of disruption, we'll definitely include that on here as well. And then I also want to add with this dashboard, you don't need to be an administrator to access this. So even your end users, if they're really curious to see what's up and running, you can point them to this site and they'll be able to access it. So we definitely believe in transparency and visibility in the services that we're providing. And then there might be some things that are not necessarily disruptions or outages, but they're known issues. They're known bugs that we want to fix or things that we want to improve with our services. So if you just do a search for our known issues page in the Admin Help Center, you'll be able to find this page. So we segment by different categories, whether it's an administrative tool, an API, a billing issue, or any of the products, as Gmail, Calendar, Docs, etc. And of course, if none of the categories meet your needs, then you can always submit a new issue that you need to know about. And then we also update you on recent fixes. So if you look on the right-hand side on the slide there, we always note the date and time and what the issue was that we did recently fix. So the known issues page is a great way to also keep in touch with more of those nitty-gritty details on some things we're fixing. And this is probably one of our fewer known resources out there. So we have, not only do we have a lot of resources for administrators, we have a lot of resources for end users, because of course they definitely need to know how to use our products too. So we have a Google Apps Help Center and Learning Center. If you just do a search for Google Apps Learning Center, you should be able to find it. So what we try to do is we have more short, quick tip videos and documentations dedicated to end users. Now, of course, end users can search across the Admin Help Center like I mentioned before, but we've created this to be a little bit more simple and intuitive for the end user experience. And we actually have something similar to our education users, and I'll show that to you in a little bit. But this is just generally for all Google Apps end users out there, so this can apply to anyone. And we also link off to this center in the control panel too, if you ever want to look up some of the documentation here yourself. So an example of how this center can be really helpful is when that new look was rolling out to Gmail and Docs and Google Apps. We created a whole separate documentation and site and videos all on the new look. So it's really helping users understand what's changing, what's different about the new look and feel for these apps. So that's why we have this Learning Center for you. And then this is just to call out our support forums, so specifically for our APIs and support forums. So if you go to code.google.com/Google Apps, you'll see plenty of forms that we have on our different APIs. So if you have any specific questions about authentication APIs, email settings APIs, mobile device management, any of that, you can go into these support forums to hear what other users are doing. And then also it's moderated by Google, so we can see what's being discussed in there as well. And then just to talk about a little bit more about what we mean by support and what is actually supported. So you might have heard the difference between core Google App Services and consumer Google App Services. So, and I know it can get a little confusing, so in the Q&A, which is coming up in a second, feel free to ask me again. But generally, when we're referring to core services, of these 7 major, so email, calendar, docs, sites, video, contacts, these are the core services. If you're ever in doubt, if you're a domain administrator, you just log into the control panel, go to the Organization and Users tab, and then click on Services, and then you'll see a drop-down menu of which services are core and which ones are consumer. So we divide them really clearly with a big yellow line that says these are consumer, these are core. So we only support the core services, and what we mean by support, we mean you can call us, you can use the web form, to help us understand what's going on. If you want to report an issue, if you want us to troubleshoot something with you. That's what we're here for, 24/7 enterprise support. Now, if you have an issue with YouTube or Blogger or any of the consumer services, maybe Google+, that is not covered enterprise support. We may try to offer troubleshooting in one-off cases, but we don't guarantee that we'll be able to look into those issues for you. What you'll have to do is just use the consumer product forums for those services instead. So if you have an issue with YouTube, they have an entire YouTube online help center. And sometimes even for specific products, they'll have a way for you to call them up directly too. Like I know for Google Books, they have a really nice form where you can provide your phone number and then they'll call you back at a time that's convenient for you. So basically, if it's not in Gmail, Calendar, Docs, Sites, video contacts, talk, and groups, it's a consumer service, so you're going to have to use the consumer help centers instead. And then just to remind you of how to log a support case. So first, you definitely need to be a domain administrator for your Google Apps account. And support cases should be admitted by only those people. So you can imagine if we let every end user out there submit a support case to us. We definitely wish we could support everyone, but it's just not feasible and scalable for us. And also, for our customers, I think it's a better streamlined experience on your end too, to just have a small select group of people being able to submit those support cases. So end users basically cannot submit tickets. They need to contact their administrator or their help desk, and then they will contact us. So just to call out our numbers again, we have a U.S. tech support and an international tech support line. This is all listed in your control panel too, so that's always there. And basically, as I mentioned before, you just log into your control panel and click on the support tab, and then that's how you can get a hold of us. You should also note your customer and support PIN number. That's always required for every ticket you submit. This helps us to ensure that you're a current Google Apps customer and that you're actually a domain administrator. Because we actually change these PINs on a regular basis just to make sure we know that it's your account and that you're the administrator. And then so oftentimes after you've submitted a support ticket, some new information has come in that makes it even more critical, or the problem gets worse. So definitely let us know. Let us know if it's involving, a very important account, or it's really time sensitive. The more information we have, the better we can help you. So obviously, if something needs more urgent attention, and it has a big impact, let us know. And then what we can do is let you know if it'll be escalated or not. So you can expect an email response with info on whether we'll escalate it or not, and then a reason why. So the next steps may include one of the following. We'll either reassign the case to someone else on our team who can address it in a faster manner. Sometimes we'll follow up with you to get more information on the impact. Sometimes we may set up a conference call with some other of our back-end specialists, depending on the issue, or we'll just keep you in the loop if it's kind of a long-standing issue. So depending on what the case is, we'll do what we can to make sure that it's resolved as soon as possible. And then also just some good tips on to help us resolve your issue as soon as possible. We ask for certain information. So generally, we'll always ask for the problem description. What's a summary of what's going on? Is the problem happening a lot, or is it intermittent? What have you done to arrive at this problem? How have you tried to troubleshoot this already? Definitely let us know the basic information, such as operating system, what kind of browser, what kind of device. Those all help us too with troubleshooting. Affected usernames. So for instance, if there's some issue with Gmail or Calendar, we definitely want to know which user is this affecting. If you have information on when the issue occurred, date, time zone, that's always helpful too. So we have a nice template here I linked off to, so you can feel free to jot that down. And you could just do a Google search for Google App Support templates too, and you should be able to find this documentation. But generally, the idea here is just, provide us with as much information as we can. That will really help us resolve your issue as soon as we can. And also just to give you a little bit more insight on how we address different support cases and their corresponding priority levels. So we typically bucket support cases into 4 categories. So P1 having the most severity and critical impact, and then P4 having the lowest impact. So P1 is, a system-wide issue. The product is unusable. Gmail is down. Calendar is down. So you're unable to, conduct daily business. So that is a P1 issue. And when you submit a support ticket, you can indicate the priority level that it should be. So it's P1 if it's affecting everyone and everything is down. P3 is kind of medium. So you know, the service is partially impaired. You know, hey, this lab in Gmail isn't quite working right, but it's not, you know, disrupting any business functions or anything essential. So that would probably be more like a P3 or a P4. You know, so there's some examples on the slide there. P2, you know, I tend to see those quite often. You know, it's an important disruption. It's definitely, you know, blocking from some things happening, but it's not affecting everyone in the domain. It's not a, you know, severe outage. So usually, you know, use your best judgment there. It's not like if you know, select P3 instead of P2 or P1 instead of P2, we'll ignore your case. I mean, generally, if you call us, you know, that's the fastest way to get a hold of us, within minutes. We email web form support. That usually is about a day of response time. So, you know, depending on what is going on, just let us know. Try to assess what level of priority it is, and you know, that will help us move forward. But that's generally just some insight for you all in how we think about case priority levels. So that wraps up our support section. So did anyone have any questions? Feel free to unmute yourself if you're in the Hangout or in the chat window. Oh, and I saw some questions about the recording. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say to anyone who's joined in a little late, this is all being recorded. So I will post this video publicly on Google+, on YouTube, everywhere. So this will all be archived. Sorry, someone had a question?
No, I was just going to comment. We've used their support several times when we're rolling out our Chromebooks, and it's incredible how quickly they respond and resolve. It's really commendable.
Great. Thank you for the feedback. Yeah, just to kind of talk about that a little bit more. So like one new feature we added to support at the end of last year was 24/7 phone support for all issues. And I should have made that clear earlier on. So typically in the past, we did offer the phone line for only system critical kind of P1 issues. But now you can call us for anything. So even if it's a P4, you know, simple UI thing or something that's not that critically important, you can still give us a call. So I think, you know, we recognize that it's just much easier and much more streamlined for us to have more phone support. And the feedback we've heard, you know, is that that's definitely helped a lot. So I saw a question come in on chat just asking about, you know, has the focus for this discussion been on the basics of the control panel and dashboard? Yes. So I figured with this very first Hangout, I keep it very high level and basic just to kind of get a baseline. You know, if you have any specific feedback, though, on what I should cover in future Hangouts or what I can address here today, definitely feel free to bring it up in the Hangout, bring it up in the chat, or follow up with me on Google+. All right. Well, I guess I'll move on to the next session. So talking about customer feature requests and suggestions. So as you know, Google Apps is, you know, a pretty different model. We're always trying to improve and innovate on our platform and with our services. So in the last couple of years, we've launched, you know, several hundred new features in our suite. I think in 2011, we had over 200 new features launched. So, you know, new contacts interface in Gmail, email delegation, sharing contacts, you know, improved migration tools, bumping up the quota for EDU users up to 25 in Gmail, 25 gigabytes in Gmail. So those are just some of the things we do throughout the whole year. You know, we have a great engineering and product team who work really closely together to just continue to improve on our platform. So that's just generally what our model is. So, you know, what we think of is instead of having kind of a waterfall model where we wait every few years to push out big updates, we think it's better to launch small incremental updates every couple of weeks. I'm sure some of you have heard this model before, but just to share it again with those who haven't heard. So that's kind of our release process. If you go to our What's New in Google Apps site, and I'll link off to this in a little bit, it kind of walks through this in more detail. So basically what we do is we give you the choice as the administrator and manager for your Google Apps domain, how often you want to see these new features. So whether you want, as soon as we push out a new feature, do you want it enabled right away, or do you want to wait a week or two to enable that for your users? Maybe enable it on your test domain, but not your production domain. So we give you that choice. So in general, but with our incremental updates, in order for us to be agile and have speed and really innovate, that's the model that we've chosen to pursue. So we think that this helps us provide better services for you all faster and more cheaply, especially for EDU since we offer it for free. So it kind of goes back to a larger question. We still definitely hear feature requests, and we love feedback. We definitely want to hear how are people using our products? What are the gaps? What will make it even better? But at the end of the day, we do have to balance it, right? So what do you prefer? Do you want a bike with all the bells and whistles that might kind of hold it down and make it harder for us to innovate on it and make things work a little bit more faster? Or do you want a bike that flies, kind of like ET? So that's kind of what we think about when we're thinking about our product prioritization and feature suggestions. We want to keep our platform lean and flexible and open. That's why we have a lot of our APIs. So for some of the things that we haven't built in directly, we allow you to take advantage of. So this kind of goes back into how we want to strategically innovate. We want to balance the need for bells and whistles with the drive to build the bike that flies. So this is not to say that we ignore the bells and whistles. We know they're important. We know for our power users out there, for the administrative assistants, for the executive assistants out there. We have them here at Google internally. We use Google Apps internally here. So we rely on Gmail and Calendar too. So we know some things like priority flags and read receipts and adding attachments to Calendar and inbox preview or preview pane in Gmail. We know those things are important, and we've added those things when there's definitely a strong demand for it. But with that said, what we envision ourselves to do is not replicate what's already available out there. We still want to maintain a more innovative and an agile platform. So especially with docs, I think that's a great example of that. We're not trying to copy Word. It's a great tool. It's a great individual authorship feature and solution. With docs, we definitely want to get you 80 to 90% of what you need, but then we want to add something special and make it a little bit more powerful for you in terms of collaboration. So I think that's a nice example of how we try to balance that strategic and innovation need. So we definitely need to hear from all of you, so we can hear, what's really important, what's that special bell or whistle that we got to have, or what's going to help us make that bike fly faster. So it takes all of us to share and keep that open loop of communication to make this even better. So just to kind of define, what is a feature request or suggestion? It's basically a request for a new feature or modification to an existing feature within the Google Apps Suite. So, we definitely receive them all the time in a variety of channels. I definitely see them on Google+. Like today, we were just talking about, it'd be nice to have a feature in Google+ Hangouts. You can see a count of the number of people watching or listening. So that would be a feature suggestion. Because today you could see how many are in your direct Hangout. I can have up to 10, but then I don't know how many are actually watching via live stream. So that would be an example. So we receive many a day, via support, on user group forums, on Google+, on Twitter, on social media in general. So we're definitely trying to collect and synthesize and triage all of the feedback. So it's really helpful for us to just hear from as many sources as possible because we want to make sure we're listening to what users want. So for many of you out there, if you haven't filed any feature suggestions or requests with us yet, the best way to do that is with support. You could definitely feel free to engage on, on Google+ with me or any other Google community managers that you're aware of. But eventually we'll all funnel it back to the same place. So the easiest way is to contact support. And here's a nice template of what to include. So basically, a description of what you're looking for. What is the current functionality that we already offer today? Then what do you want? And then, most importantly, what is the impact here? Is it affecting just one user who's a little picky, or is it affecting everyone? So that helps us understand, if it's a kind of a widespread thing. And then, how we prioritize things, it's based on a few factors. So obviously, the number of customers requesting it. So, if we see that everyone's asking for a certain feature. Let me see, I think a good example was email delegation in Gmail. That was a top feature request. So we heard that loud and clear, and we rolled it out. So it's always helpful for us to know, if it's within just one organization, how many users? Is it 1 or 500? And then also we have to look at our own current product roadmap and our resources. So, in an ideal world, we'd have all hands on deck to address every suggestion and idea out there. But in reality, we can't work on every single thing that comes in. So we have to prioritize. So if a feature kind of already aligns with our roadmap, then it's definitely going to be able to be considered. Or if there's loud demand from a lot of customers and a lot of users affected by something, then we'll have to listen to that. But if it's something that's only affecting a small segment of the population, not many customers are really talking about it or asking about it, it's not going to have as much of a priority. And so another resource that helps us is our Google Apps regional user groups. So these are groups for current Google Apps customers. So they've either already deployed Google Apps or they're committed to deploying Google Apps. And they can subscribe to many of our mailing lists. We have a global North America one, and then we break it down by region. So there's a Northeast user group, a Northwest user group, and we're actually launching them internationally too. So in Australia, in the United Kingdom, in Ireland, and Spain. So it's becoming an even more global thing. But generally, the purpose of these groups is to connect current Google Apps customers to share everyday questions with each other, share best practices with each other, solutions with each other, resources with each other, share code, scripts, presentations, documentation. So we actually have over 700 members on the North America mailing list right now, with about 350 or so institutions represented, and it grows every day. So it's a great community to be a part of. One thing we've been doing is when someone has a feature request or suggestion, share it with the group. See what other customers think about it. See if others are in the same predicament. See, hear the same thing from users. Or maybe you'll see that no one else is really thinking about that or hasn't thought about that yet. So it's a nice way to help us crowdsource feedback. And we also have a Google moderator page with this users group. So once you are admitted into the mailing list, you'll see a link to post additional feature suggestions to our moderator. So with the moderator, people can vote up or down depending on the priority of a feature suggestion. And then what I do at every quarter, I take those suggestions and share that back with our product manager. So the regional groups are great with that. And then, of course, you definitely want to stay on top of new features that are coming out, especially with our model. We tend to launch smaller incremental updates every couple of weeks. So it's really good to just know what's coming in the pipeline. So the first link there is what'snew.googleapps.com. Basically, it's called What's New in Google Apps. So that's a great portal that links off to a launch calendar. So it shows you, when is a certain feature launching, what's the product, how do I turn it on, if there's any other documentation I need to know about. We also link off to resources for your end users too. So if your end users want to learn more about the new look coming out for Google Apps, or how to use Docs, or new features coming out, that's another resource for them too. We also link off to all of our blogs. We have plenty of blogs and presences across the web. So we have the Google Enterprise blog. Excuse me. We have the official Google blog. So we definitely link off to those there. So we also have a Google Updates blog. And this is a way for you to just see every week when we launch something new. You can receive it in an RSS feed. You can just visit the blog itself. You can receive email alerts. So that's another thing that I recommend you bookmark. And then finally, we have an EDU guide to Going Google. So we also link off to all of these resources that you see here. So we link off to the What's New in Google Apps site, We link off to end-user training materials and professional development materials. We link off to logos and templates, so if you want to communicate an event or launch, we have all those templates available too on the Guide to Go in Google for EDU. And then we also have a general open product suggestions page. So if you just do a Google search for Google Apps product suggestions, this is just another channel for you to submit feedback to us. Sometimes we already have some things that are on our radar, and we want to hear, what other users think. So, if there's a feature for Gmail that you've been thinking about and you see it's on our minds too, definitely suggest it. So, any points of data for us to see from our users really helps us with prioritizing. So I'll pause again there. Feature suggestions and requests. Any questions there? It looks like some folks are showing in the chat window about the RSS feeds. So I'll go back to that slide. So you got what's new in googleapps.com, googleappsupdates.blogspot.com, and then eduguide.googleapps.com. So the Google Apps Updates blog, I hear that's probably the most popular in just getting email alerts. There's a button, if you look on the screenshot there, there's a button to subscribe to the RSS feed, follow the updates on Twitter, or just get them by email. But additionally, you can find the same information on our what'snew.googleapps.com site too. Any other questions?
Hey, Jordan, is there a place where I can go for any particular service and see all of the feature requests that have been made, consolidated from whatever source they may have come in from?
Yeah, that's a good question. So today, unfortunately, it's a little decentralized, and I do want to be transparent about that. So that's something we can improve. But that's definitely been on my mind. I've been thinking about what I can do for the regional groups, maybe add a little tab on our global site for folks that have already signed an NDA, and then have a spreadsheet that just lists, the feature request or suggestion, and then its status, and any other comments or notes about that. So, so that's something I'll be looking to build either this quarter or next. Any other questions? Okay, so just I'll wrap up this Hangout with, who I am as a community manager and what I'm here for, and then we can open it up for general Q&A or any discussion after. So I already introduced myself earlier on, but for those of you that joined later, and also just to kind of re-describe it again. So my name is Jordan Pedraza. I'm a community manager for Google Apps for Education, specifically on higher ed. So basically, I'm a resource for after you've gone Google, after you've deployed Google Apps for EDU, and I'm here for administrators, for end users, for stakeholders, anyone who has a vested interest in making sure that Google Apps is a success at their institution. That's what I'm here for. So you can connect with me in a variety of ways. Obviously, I'm going to be doing a lot more Hangouts now, so I think it's a nice way to put a name to the face. I definitely attend, a lot of EDUCAUSE conferences. Usually, the Google Apps EDU team has a big booth at the annual EDUCAUSE conference every year. And then we've also been attending the EDUCAUSE regional conferences lately. So I actually will be at the Chicago one for the Midwest meetup at the end of March. So I'm there too. And then, of course, I'm on Google+, and I'm on Twitter. So feel free to, and then obviously, if you already have my, direct contact information, feel free to get in touch with me through that way too. So, but basically, in short, I'm here for you. I want to hear, your feedback. I want to share resources with you, and continue to work it together with Google Apps. So just some of the things that I do. Community manager is kind of a large, big term, but generally, I'm here to consult you on best practices and recommendations for managing and promoting Google Apps for Education. So You know, if you want to think of ways to get a certain group of people to adopt it more. If you want to learn about, you know, how can we use docs for this, for that, you know, that's what I'm here for. I'm happy to hear what ideas you have and then also share my own, either based on what other schools have done or what we recommend here. And then also, you know, I try to push out a lot of information. Hopefully, you know, I try to make it relevant for each community that I'm working with. You know, so we have a lot of channels to help us do that. Like we have our Google Apps regional groups. That's mostly for administrators, so folks that are logging into the control panel and managing accounts and that kind of thing. So I'll try to send more information on that to that group. But then we have a Google for Students Plus page, or the larger Google and Education Plus page, and I'll show you a little bit more about that in a second. There, I'll probably post more education-specific materials. So, you know, 32 ways to use Google Apps in higher ed for faculty or for students. I'll probably post that content there. And then I'm also here, you know, to listen. You know, we definitely really want to hear your feedback. So, you know, there's lots of channels to submit it, but definitely feel free to get in touch with me. Especially on Google+, I have to say I can't promise I'll respond to every inquiry or every comment, but I will read everything. And that's similarly to what I do on the regional groups. I do read every single post and thread on those forums, so we do care about the feedback. And then finally, just sharing more resources for you. So whether it's on managing Google Apps, whether it's on training, you know, whether it's on any marketing or publicity or technical integration. So if you're looking to, you know, figure out how you can integrate Google Apps with your LMS or your student information system or any ERP systems, definitely let us know and we can point you in the right direction. We can either connect you with other customers that have done that. We can point more resources your way. We can connect you with any third-party partners that can help you with that. Same with trainings and events. So, you know, with our own regional user groups, we definitely have, you know, annual or biannual events where we all get together and, you know, share best practices and sharing what we learn. And then we're starting to have kind of two tracks for that. So one with the current regional groups today, that's more for administrators, so more, you know, technical people. But we've definitely heard a demand for resources for end users, specifically for faculty in higher ed. So we've been having these educator summits around Google Apps. We're actually having one at Keene University in New Jersey next month at the end of March. And we've announced this on our regional group mailing lists and all over Google+. But that's more intentional for teachers and end users and educators looking to use Google Apps for teaching and learning and in their classes. So we're going to continue to have events more for just educators and teachers, and then also continue to have events for administrators. So that's another thing that we're going to continue to work on. And then just when to contact support instead. So, you know, if you don't need, you know, best practices or a policy question, or you don't need to know about what other schools or customers are doing about a certain issue. You know, if you have a system critical issue, if you need technical troubleshooting, or, you know, you have a subpoena, definitely contact support instead. You know, they have 24/7 availability. They have, you know, all the tools necessary to help troubleshoot your issue and also just to report and log it. You know, that's really important for us. You know, we definitely care about data at large at Google. So if we see, you know, an X number of cases on a certain issue or problem, that will help us prioritize it accordingly in terms of product features in our roadmap. And also just helping us to figure out what tools do customers need. I think a good example of that is the ability to rename a user in the control panel. So last year we launched that available. So, but before that, customers would have to contact support, and then you know, we would you know, enable that for you. But then now we have a service for you to do that in the control panel yourselves. And we're working on some other things that are commonly asked from support that will enable you to do instead. So, so that's an example of, you know, why it's important to contact support when it's more of a technical, system critical, or just kind of tool-based issue. And I just want to point to this community again. So we have 6 U.S. user groups for Google Apps for education or for business or for nonprofits or government agencies. So the cool thing about these regional groups is that the majority of them are still higher ed customers on there, but they're not the only ones. There's some businesses on there, there's nonprofits, government agencies. So, sometimes there are differences in industries, but then a lot of times there's a lot of overlap. When it comes to new features, when it comes to the new look for Google Apps, handling consumer services, provisioning users, dealing with deprovisioning users, that's something that all Google Apps customers can relate to and definitely want to learn from each other and share what you all are doing. And then also, I use this community to push out important notifications. I use this mailing list to send out updates on the new look. So, okay, this is when Gmail is going to be the default look for everyone, on this date. I send announcements like that on these lists. And then also invitations to future events. So if we're having another educator summit, if we have another Google Apps regional group meetup, if we have another Hangout on air, I'll definitely be announcing it through this community too. So you can definitely customize how email is delivered to this. You can sign up with your school email address or a personal email address. You just have to tell us what school you're representing or what organization you're representing. And then also you can choose whether you receive email on everything or a digest or just look at the web page. So this is powered by Google Groups, so all of those same features and functionality that's available today in that product you can use for working with this community. And finally, I just wanted to touch on some other additional resources, specifically around Google in Education and Google in Enterprise. So you might have seen a lot of new Plus pages from us on Google Plus. It's basically an organizational presence on Google Plus. So we launched the Google in Education one. So just search for Google in Education on Google Plus if you haven't already. Definitely add us to your circles if you want to hear more about any initiatives or opportunities to partner with us in the education space. So we'll announce certain faculty research grants, student scholarships, competitions, just general documentation on using Google Apps and our tools in classrooms and in teaching and learning. We'll be doing Hangouts from there. We'll share videos on there. So definitely follow us. And then there's also a brand new overhauled, revamped Google in Education site. Just go to google.com/edu. So we've had this site for quite a few years. It's just now we've given it a fresh new look, and we've made it much more simpler for you to discover everything that's going on. So we segment it out by population. Here's the page for teachers, for students, for organizations. And then we have a general news and calendar section. So we kind of talk about our core goals, what is our foundation, and what do we care about in education, and then how are we empowering those users out there. And then there's also a digital booklet about kind of our annual Google in Education report. So you can find that on the google.com/edu site. So it's a great report. We talk about specifically what we're doing in higher ed, in K-12, with nonprofits, all of our programs and grants and initiatives and products that we offer within this community. And then finally, I wanted to mention our Google Enterprise Plus page. So it's a little similar to our Google in Education Plus page, but it's not EDU specific. So you'll see more about product announcements and Hangouts with product managers, and then announcements with other customers and how they're using our products or who has joined the Google Apps family. So those are 3 new assets that I wanted to point you to. So any other questions on myself, as a community manager, or anything else that I've covered today? So someone asked about whether I work with K-12 schools or just higher ed. So I only work with higher ed. We do have a K-12 community manager. Her name is Becky Evans, and she'll be having a Hangout on air in the future. So just look out for Becky Evans. Feel free to follow up with me on Google Plus if you don't remember her name. I'll connect you with her. She basically does what I do, but for K-12 school districts. Let's see. Oh, someone mentioned Dana Nguyen. So Dana is on our marketing team in education. So she works more closely with Becky on the K-12 side. For higher ed, our marketing person is Miriam Schneider. So she's also on Google Plus. I can connect you with her. if you haven't been introduced to her already. So generally, we divide ourselves between higher ed and K-12, and then also we have Google Apps for Education team. So that includes Gmail and Calendar and Docs, but then also Chromebooks. So those lightweight notebooks that are only powered by the Chrome browser. So that's kind of how we organize our team. And then also I'm based in Mountain View, our headquarters, and I've been on the team for about a year and a half. Oh, interesting question. So someone asked about, how to create community managers and, just a general description or best practices for community managers. I can't think of anything externally that we have on that at the moment, but I could definitely look at what I can share. Because internally, we have a great network of community managers. You might have seen community managers from some of our consumer products, like the community manager for Gmail or Google Docs. So we definitely all work together internally at Google. We actually have a yearly summit. We all, take a day to just network with each other and share what we're all doing. I think that's probably the best way to get started. Just try to find out, everyone that's involved with some aspect of community management, get them all together in a room for a half-day or day summit, and kind of leave it open-ended. That's what we did earlier this year. We had an unconference. For those of you that are not familiar with that, it's basically just setting a day and time when everyone's going to get together, but not having a predetermined agenda. The only thing that you'll probably do is just go around and introduce yourselves, and then everyone will kind of volunteer different topics they want to talk about. So that's what we did. Some folks asked about, okay, well, what are the best tools for enabling community management? Should we be using Google+? Should we be using Google Groups? So that's a great topic. Some other questions have been around developing communities. So how do we ensure that new communities can develop, that can be born out of existing ones? So I can probably put together a doc and share in the future what we think about in terms of community management. But I think at the end of the day, if it's for your own organization, like one thing I think I've seen really successful, this is more specific to Google, but organizations that have Google guides or Google experts, that tends to go very well. So people that kind of come forward and they're a little bit more tech savvy and they want to lead, they want to mentor, they want to be a guide, kind of tap them to be a part of your team. They can conduct trainings for you, do one-on-one visits and training sessions, and also be your eyes and ears on the ground, especially if you're at a large school. They can kind of be your community managers. At least the way I think about it, it's not so much managing the community. I don't really even think about it in that way. It's more about listening and facilitating, enabling. So I think that should be the general goal. So someone asked about future educator summits for people in the Bay Area or San Francisco area. So stay tuned. Right now, I think we just locked down a date for a Southeast Summit in North Carolina in July. So I'll post this to the user groups when we have more details. And then for the Bay Area, I know we're still scoping venues and dates, but I'll definitely announce that on all the channels when we have that ready. And then someone asked about the next regional meetup for the Southeast. So yeah, we're thinking June 11th and 12th at the Google Atlanta office. So Ken Engel, the Southeast leader, he's actually in Cupertino right now, not too far from me. He will be sending out a survey on the Southeast mailing list about topics and agenda very soon. In fact, let me just go back to the, so if you're not subscribed on any of the regional group mailing lists yet, go to appsusersgroup.com, and then we list out all of the different regional groups and mailing lists and sites and the calendar and announcements. Everything you need to know is on there. Any other questions or feedback on this Hangout on Air? Hopefully, there weren't too many technical glitches, or you all were able to hear me okay. Let me stop sharing my screen so you can see my face. So yeah, how do you think it went? Any feedback or questions?
Well, having been a teacher before with no one answering, I'll just jump in and say it's great to just participate and listen to what's coming up and jotting down some of those resources that I wasn't aware of. So thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Jordan, I would agree with what others were saying earlier about it would be great if we knew how many were on the on-air section and if they would have a way to be able to participate as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jordan, I like the idea of the community managers at the local level. Like I'm trying to create we call it Don's Apps, and so to create a user group of just end users where, it's not the back end stuff, but the front end, how to use the products and things like that. So I'll be very curious to see what you're documenting about community management. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, we definitely have, now that I think about it, we have some more documentation on best practices for setting up Google Guides. So I could definitely create a public presentation on that and share it out on the channels. I've definitely heard some other organizations do that before. They'll create an internal alias, Google Experts or, a users group. So that's definitely a great way to connect everyone. So also another thing I've heard another school do, Rutgers, they had one of their students who works in the IT help staff create a Google form as a survey, just asking for any student interest and involvement in larger IT initiatives, but also with Google Apps. So if you can get like a student or instructional technologist or someone like that who is more closely associated with your end users, and kind of survey them on their interest, if they want to be a Google Guide, if they want to be a manager, if they want to be an expert, or even just attend any sessions. It's another nice way to just include everyone and make them feel involved.
Jordan, there was a post just to answer the question about, or perhaps answer the question about being able to contribute from the live side, from the broadcast side. I noticed on your post, someone had posted a question which I left there in the chat for you. I think it probably has more to do with you being on the West Coast, and it's probably an East Coast question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I liked Brian's feature suggestion earlier on, and a few of you have also said that would be helpful. So I'll definitely take that back to the Google Plus team. I would be very surprised if they haven't heard that before, though. So I'm sure. I know they're working on a lot of other improvements for Google Plus in general, and especially with Hangouts. So, but I'll make sure that they're aware of that too. Any other thoughts, questions, comments? All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to hang out with me today. I hope it was helpful and informative and fun. I'll definitely be having more of these in the future. Some of you might have already attended some of our fireside chats, and they're basically webinars where we invite some of our customers to share, their story on particular topics. So we're thinking about using Hangouts on Air for these instead. Obviously there are pros and cons to doing that, so we're thinking about that. But definitely from the Google Plus team, I'm getting kicked out of my room here. We'll be doing more of these in the future. So thanks again, everyone, for tuning in, and have a great rest of the day.